Hello. One thing that so many students tend to stress over is the thesis statement. And it makes sense because this is a feature of the essay that's in Latin. Thesis is a Latin word. It sounds kind of official, and writing instructors like myself are likely to comment on your thesis statement. So it makes sense that people would be concerned about doing a good job on their thesis statement. And I want to try to make it easy for you. So I've got these 5 tips here. One, put your thesis statement at the very end of your introduction. Actually, very, very end of your introduction, not just the end, but very, very end. So I mean, like nothing comes after it. End that introduction after the thesis statement with a period, hit enter, and start your first body paragraph. Doing that will make it clearer to the reader what exactly your thesis is. Second, keep it brief. A lot of instructors actually require thesis statements to be no more than 1 sentence long. I'm not one of those instructors. I think it's okay to make it a couple sentences long, but it will become confusing what exactly your thesis is if it's much longer than 1 sentence. So short and sweet here. Make it respond to the assignment. That's my third tip. Very important, because this is actually an opportunity for you to check in that you are on the right track, that you're doing what the assignment asks you to do. That's super important for getting a passing grade in any class. So your thesis statement should respond to that. I'll talk about that more in a moment. Number 4, make sure that your thesis statement sums up what you're talking about in body paragraphs. Having said that, it's okay to go back and change your thesis statement after you've written your body paragraphs. That's absolutely fine. Maybe your body paragraphs went in a different direction than what you were anticipating when you wrote the thesis. No worries, go back and change it. But make sure that you make that match happen, that whatever your body paragraphs say, that's what your thesis statement sums up. And finally, we've got quite a few other resources that could be helpful to you on this topic in our resource module. So let's go back to that first one, putting it at the end of the introduction. This is a sample intro, an exemplar introduction written by your fellow classmate Brenda about students amid the pandemic. So let's just see what's in here together. This is for essay, I don't know, essay 2 or essay 1. In any case, let's take a look at it. Students amid the pandemic. I think this was for her essay 2. The COVID-19 pandemic has changed the lives of many people, but a group that has significantly been affected is our students. Students in the K-12 education system and even universities saw their schools being closed and their desks being taken away. Suddenly, they were forced to situate themselves and their education in their own spaces with their own materials. It's officially been a year since in-person classes were mandatory, and many of our students continue learning from home. However, there have been questions and issues brought to light about whether this education setting is actually beneficial to our students' success in their academic careers. Why? Students are having a strenuous time to learn and thrive under these new circumstances that have interrupted the entire flow of their academics as they know it. Remote education poses a problem for students as it can result in harmful consequences for children's social development, mental and physical health, and a shortage of resources for disadvantaged families that allow students to survive day to day, period. End of introduction, end of thesis statement. So that is her thesis statement at the very, very end of her introduction. Let me highlight it for you. Right there at the end. So there's nothing after that, right? That's the end. That's the end of the introduction. That's the end of the thesis statement. It usually just adds confusion if you go on from there. So get in the habit of putting that period at the end of your thesis statement and then considering your introduction over. After that, body paragraphs should begin. So what's all this up here? Well, this is where she's providing some background, getting us thinking about her topic, getting our interest, helping us understand why this is important. In other words, hooking the reader. So that's what all that is. And this is what the proportions should look like in your introduction. A lot of background, a lot of a lot of background, a lot of hook, and a very brief thesis that sums up what's going to be next. So that's number one. Number two, keep it brief. Well, we kind of saw this in hers, so I don't think there's much more to say about that. You don't have to put all the details that you're going to have in your body paragraphs in your thesis statement. Save those for the body. Just sum it up in the most general way, and that's all you need to do. So let's talk about number three, making sure the thesis statement responds to the assignment. So here's the Essay 2 assignment. You really need to be rereading these assignments at various points through the researching, writing, planning, proofreading process to make sure that you are on track with what's assigned, because an essay has to respond to the assignment and has to meet any special requirements of the assignment in addition to being an objectively good essay in order to be passing. So we can skip the required sources, we can skip the background. Here's what's so important, the task right here, your task. Not every instructor sets up their assignments the same way, but somewhere in that assignment, in that essay assignment, there's going to be a part that basically tells you what the requirements are and what the instructor wants you to do. Whether or not it's labeled a task, that's the part you need to focus most on, and that's the part that your thesis statement needs to respond to. If you're not clear what the task is or what exactly you're supposed to do for the essay assignment, ask your instructor. So here we got to write a 4 to 6 page essay that identifies a problem with your topic and which aims to convince readers that this is a problem that they should care about. So here is what your thesis statement needs to respond to. It needs to make it clear that you're going to be writing about a problem and trying to convince readers that this problem is important. So if we go back to our sample here, remote education poses a problem. She actually used the word problem. That's very helpful. I'm going to go click back over here to the assignment again. An essay that identifies a problem. So that's very helpful that she actually used some of the language from the assignment itself in stating her thesis. That makes it very clear to me, the instructor, that she's doing what I asked her to do in her essay, basically, that she's going to talk about a problem. And I know what it's a problem with. Remote education poses a problem. She's going to talk about a problem with remote education. So that's great. If we scroll down here, this is the shark endangerment essay by Magdalena, which you guys have read. I hope. If you haven't, go read it, because this was the one that ended up winning Best Essay Contest for essay number 2. So she also has her thesis stated down here at the, oops, wrong one. She has her thesis stated down here at the very end of her introduction. Let's just read it. People tend to believe that sharks are the bad guy when in reality they serve a beneficial purpose to the environment and especially humans, which is why shark endangerment should be of importance and concern to us all. So she didn't repeat the word problem in here, but I get it. So she says, this is why shark endangerment should be of importance and concern to us all. Again, if we go back here, it says that the purpose of this essay is to convince readers that this is a problem that they should care about. So this is why shark endangerment should be of importance and concern to us all. She's clearly going to work at convincing readers that shark endangerment is something that they should care about, again, in the words of the assignment. So whatever your assignment is, make sure that your thesis statement responds to it clearly, either by, like Brenda did, reusing some of the language from the thesis, from the assignment, or in any other way that you can think of. If your assignment is posed to you as a question, then that's extra easy because your thesis statement needs to answer that question. So if your assignment is given to you in the form of a question, this one's not, but many times your assignments will be, then make sure your thesis statement answers that. Okay, so number 4, make sure it sums up what you discuss in body paragraphs. I don't think I'm going to show you an example because it would be too long, but this is very important. And one thing that I sometimes see is that students will have a thesis statement that's really good, but then their body paragraphs lose the thesis as they go. So some tricks for staying on track with your thesis as you write might be to have a post-it, one of these little guys. I like these little mini ones, but they might be kind of small for writing your thesis statement on. I've got some bigger ones too. Maybe this would be better. So write your thesis statement on here. Stick that to your computer and then, or on the desk next to where you work. And as you write, you can refer back to your thesis statement, just kind of to remind yourself, what are you doing? What is it that you're working on? You could do that too as you kind of reread your essay. It's not realistic to think that you're going to sit down and write a perfect draft the first time. Your first draft should be more like a free write. And then you can go back and do these things like check to make sure that the thesis statement is matching the body paragraphs and things like that. So another thing that you ought to do is check out our resource module for more. We've got some good stuff here. So this is the first of our modules. This is almost like your textbook. I hear people giving each other the advice to look at videos on YouTube, and that's great, but first, you should check your resource module before you go outside of Canvas to find videos to help you understand things like thesis statements. So this is organized by resources for writing, resources for reading and note-taking, and resources for doing research. So the part about things about thesis statements are going to be up here in resources for writing, some that I think would be useful, parts of a college essay, because that talks about intros and theses. What is an essay? This presentation also talks about that. Focus on introductions. This also talks about that, and it includes another video. What is a thesis statement? This document also gives you more information about thesis statements. So the one other thing that I wanted to talk about for this particular assignment is, so for your research paper, you're going to have 2 sections. The first section is going to be basically essay 2. You're going to start essay 2 with something like what we looked at here with Maggie's thesis and Brenda's thesis, these theses that identify problems, because that's what the first section of your essay is going to be about. Then this one, let's actually read the task again. So 8 to 10 page research paper which aims to convince readers that a problem of your choice is a problem that they should care about. So that's like essay 2, and which also tells what the most important solutions are. Now, there's different ways to incorporate the solutions into your thesis statement. You could go back to your essay 2 thesis and add a solution here. You could do that, but you don't have to. Remember how I suggested that you have a transition paragraph, that basically you finish writing about the problem, wrap that up, and then introduce the solution. That part where you introduce the solution, that's almost going to be like or it can be anyway, like a second thesis statement that covers the second part of your essay. So that needs to tell us what the solution is in order to respond to the essay 2 assignment